Okay, I am calling this December 12th, 2022 regular meeting of the Mancos RE6 School Board to order. The time is 7:03. Roll call, please.
Pam Harbinger,
Here.
Victor Figueroa,
Aye.
Amy Cable Wolpe. Here. Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Here.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. All four, or all five of us are here. Would everyone please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education and the public rather than a meeting with the public. So Tigo, welcome. We have one visitor and that's
In person.
Yeah, in person, that's Tigo. And thank you to all of you who are on Facebook and attending this meeting with this virtually. Go to, oops, sorry, my agenda's underneath everything. All right, we have approval of agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Now, we do have two items that we need to add to the agenda. This is an updated agenda that you have, but this is not the one that was posted, though, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we have an item 6, the district accountability report. This will be a standard report, and now Mr. Cruz is our president. He will be here to offer a report from the DAC every month, right? And the other one was under number 9. There is a D added, and that was the discussion item under discussion items. And that's the board superintendent evaluation, so we can decide when we want to get together and talk about that before we give it back to Todd. Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to include item number 6 ongoing,
6 ongoing.
As a
and then
standard?
9D. Yes.
but 9D for just this particular one? Okay, so I'll make a motion for 6, the district accountability report, to be inclusive of the agenda going forward every month. And then also 9D to be added this month.
I second that.
Okay, so I've got it, a corrected agenda with 6, the district accountability report, and 9D. Any more discussion?
I just have one question.
Okay.
So on discussion item CASB conference, is that where you want me to go over
Yeah, just
linkage and all of that stuff, or?
Well, that's our, whatever breakouts you went to, the things you learned from the conference itself, any highlights that you can remember.
Okay, and then the linkage and all that stuff you want me to do at?
That's gonna be different. Okay, that,
Is that, do you want me to do that at at my CASB update?
I don't know if that's particularly.
yeah, that's not really CASB oriented,
Okay,
so that's more board oriented.
okay,
So-
I thought you wanted it at the board meeting.
No, we
I
were
don't
just
think-
talking about our highlights as
Oh,
far as,
okay.
so that, you know, we spent school money to go, and the public needs to know that we went for a reason, and we
Okay.
didn't just skip out and
Okay.
have a party.
Okay.
All right,
Just as,
okay, so any more, just, yes.
just as a point of parliamentary procedure, I made the original motion, so should be the one that amends that motion for the agenda.
Yes,
And I do so amend when we have a second.
Thank
And I'll second.
okay, so we have an amended agenda, and
And a
a
second.
motion and a second. All right, any more discussion on the amended agenda? Okay, Heather, call the question, please.
Amy Cable Wolpe,
Aye.
Pam Harbinger,
Aye.
Victor Figueroa,
Aye.
Tim Hunter, Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the November meeting.
Second,
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the November 14th, 2022 regular meeting. Any discussion? Will you call the question, please?
Amy Cable Wolpe,
Aye.
Pam Harbinger,
Aye.
Victor Figueroa,
Aye.
Tim Hunter,
aye,
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We don't have, Pico's going to participate later, so we don't have any public participation tonight. And we're on to district accountability report.
Good evening, everyone. I just start off with another meeting. We had 9 members attend this last meeting. We had a couple changes to the layout of our agenda that I will go over real quick. And that's, since I am coming to the board meetings, I feel like it's doing my due diligence to do a little recap of the board meeting to the staff members, just to get more thoughts about the local conversation. Added that to the agenda. Recommendations to the board is now a section on our agenda.
Nice.
Nice.
Just for opportunity for those recommendations to come up, being very intentional about that. And then a future agenda item section has been added, so that if throughout the month that we haven't met, we can, if something does come up, we can address it at either this calendar or, that should be addressed at the next calendar. So
I like that.
those are a few things we try to add to the agenda. This month kind of was our topic of the month was kind of put November and March together. I talked about the strategic plan met and the pathways program, and a little bit about project-based learning. And that was all really helpful information. A couple takeaways from the information Todd gave us. The strategic plan, he kind of summarized for us that it's a plan to help the board members be able to focus on what's to come in the future, years to come, while it's there to help the staff focus on what's today. That was a good distinction, I feel like, for us to just realize how it helps guides you as a board and the staff. So that was a good little caveat he gave us. Then it was talked about how when the strategic plan was first started, it didn't seem like a lot of buy-in or hesitation. There was a lot of hesitation from staff members and some parents. But the work y'all have done over the past year, we could see the difference of buy-in from staff and from parents. And so that was just an acknowledgement of gratitude for the work y'all have done, and you can see that before now. As well. You can see. So thank you for that. And then something that I really enjoyed seeing, I haven't seen the pathways booklet until that meeting. And this whole concept of this pyramid in the pathways was really good to visualize how the portrait of a graduate really is broken down pre-K to 12. And I feel like I worked here for a few years. I've been around for a little while. And I hadn't always been able to conceptualize what it meant for portrait of graduate, how is it instilled and all of that. And so having this and seeing the breakdown from preschool all the way to 12th was really beneficial, and made a suggestion to Todd to see if we could get that on the website. Just so everyone can see that. 'Cause
Good point.
I've never seen this picture before, and it really helped get the picture of what that means. in the district.
Do you have any other staff members we have that never seen it?
And then there's another shout out from a member that was in Denver and was part of a program management meeting for Gary Community Ventures, who specifically mentioned Todd and the work he and y'all have done with the pathways and with the strategic plan. So just as a shout out, we're reaching all the way to Denver, being talked about us. So that was fun to hear.
That's nice to hear.
And then, let's see, we did, so on the things that we added to our agenda, the recommendations to the board. We have one recommendation, and really that is a structure for recommendations. So the DAC meeting always feels like it's the board meeting recap the board instead of knowing what the board's gonna talk about and us being able to give you recommendations before that ever happens. Right now, we don't know what's coming up the next month.
When do you have your meeting?
We usually have it the next Tuesday after the board meeting, the week after. Which I wrote down that mine and Todd's next meeting. Probably not this year because we already have our date set, but talking about next year, how we can schedule that different, to be more intentional of being able to do what we're supposed to do as an advisory committee. And so something we are asking from y'all is to know what you're talking about the next month, so that we can.
Oh, we did that. We have somewhat of a schedule.
And so knowing that, so that we can actually do
We add
prior
to
work
it.
for that.
But we do know the objective and that type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, as far as the strategic plan.
And I think there's two types of recommendations that we can give you, and that's one that's just random. Things just randomly come up and we can have recommendations on that. But I also want to be more intentional of and structured in the sense that what y'all are talking about at the next month, us being able to have that information somewhat so that we can be proactive on having questions for you and recommendations.
So the meeting after hours, like if you were having one next week, you would want to know what we were talking about
In
the next
January.
week to talk at your meeting.
And that, I mean, part of our schedule this month is we're not having a meeting.
Right.
So we are looking towards the February meeting that we'll be talking about, so.
No, that's good.
Okay.
No, that's good. I mean, I think we would know what we are talking about. In February.
Somewhat, there's gonna be some surprises, as there always are.
Which is why I will also give the board recap
Okay.
at the next meeting.
I was gonna comment that I think it makes sense to kind of go both ways. You're gonna have to report on what was discussed, but I just have to commend you for taking the leadership to get that process going, because I think for many, many years, that's what we've been striving towards, is really the better cohesiveness between the two groups and that communication back and forth. And so I'm very happy to hear that you've gotten to that point, and your consistent presence at the meetings makes a difference. And I just think it's so much more effective, not just to get the feedback from DAC, but also for DAC to really know and understand if they can't be at the meetings, or maybe they don't get to watch the meeting, but having your presence to be able to relay, this is what was communicated or discussed, this is where we kind of landed. It's so valuable, and we haven't had it for a long time. We've really made some great strides, so good job.
And then the other thing we added to the agenda was to our layout is future agenda items, and one thing did get brought up, and that is sports. And what is going on with wanting Travis to come and talk about like what's going on with sports, how are our sports excited, what is our involvement, and just getting that more
Come to
information.
your meetings.
That'll be at our meeting. And so we are gonna add that since Todd kind of put together the November and March meeting. We took Todd off March and added Travis, which is also part of the curriculum conversation we'll have with all the principals. So I feel like it brings the admin team really to kind of discuss what they do. So I think that flows well come on. And yeah, no December meeting, so.
Tito, if I may, at CASB, I went to a session called Family to School Partnerships that I thought might come in handy for you and your team. It was hosted, the main moderator was Darcy Hutchins. And I don't remember if she was with the Families to School Partnerships or SACPI, which is the State Advisory Council for Parent Involvement in Education, or she's in one of those. But I will forward you and Todd additional information. She does work with accountability committees, and but she also works with accountability staff and boards, and to strengthen the family to school partnerships. And one of the conversations we had was that there were a lot of amazing things happening. She has facilitated in the San Luis Valley, who recently got a grant. So I think that spoke to kind of her rural involvement, her knowledge of rural schools, even though she's out of the Front Range. And this might be something that possibly we work with other school districts to bring her down, and maybe do a training for all of the accountability committees in maybe our BOCES region or something of that nature. But I thought she had some really good ideas that could be applicable for you, and for the team. So I will write something up for you with some links. And forward that on to you.
Thank you.
Training always helps. Yeah, look at what other schools are doing. It makes more sense.
And if you can coordinate it through BOCES, even better as it applies to the whole region.
Everybody.
Like
Do those DACs ever meet? Do they ever have any training with each other? Do they ever meet, or is it just really individually? School system?
I've never seen them meet. I think that may be something for us to consider next year.
I have, at the next meeting, I already have some talking points for Todd of wanting to make DEC a little more robust.
Connection.
Wanting-
You've come a long way, though. I just wanted to say.
Yes.
I mean, you
yes,
really have.
yes, And wanting some, we've had good number or good attendance, but having consistent attendance, I think would be even better. And so ways for us to connect. How we can do that. So
It's come a long way.
That's
I think the first DAC meeting I went to was 7 or 8 years ago. And I mean, it is so much more robust than it was 7 or 8 years ago. I know that's a long time, but really, I mean, it's come a long way. And it just keeps getting better and better. I feel like if anybody really wants to know and be involved and close to the school, they should go to the DAC meetings. They should become part of DAC. And it's not just high school or middle or elementary. It is PK-12. It is it's the district accountability committee for so it really oversees the entire district and is a great catalyst of communication and knowing what's going on. You're doing a great job.
and I appreciate Todd taking the time to find people who from each building to try to be here, because that I think that is
Really
important.
interested.
And Todd, didn't you charge the administrators and staff and to like
Yeah,
spread the word?
our
Who's
administrative
interested?
assistants did a great job
I know, I
getting the
thought so.
word out
Yeah.
to fill DAC for this upcoming year,
Mhm.
for this current year.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's how I landed there, was through Pearlie Chadwick back in the day when she was the ELC director. I mean, it was a staff member saying, you should come here. So that's really imperative.
I was on DAC in the 19. Wow.
That was last century.
My
I
grandkid,
know. I'm
my
bringing it
grandson has said this to me.
I know.
Did you go to school in the 1900s? Yes.
Yes, I did.
See, Tim, you can see. So anyway, yeah, so and that, this really changed. I was at the County Center, and that was, we went through about 4 policies and gave our recommendations, but then we handed them off and never heard anything. So it's really changed. It's nice to be included, and it is a legal thing that we need.
Well, and I think that just as the work y'all are doing of implementing things so that the future gets even better, is something that is causing me to think more of how can we make DAC in the future even better. Not just when I'm here, but when I'm gone. And there's not a lot of structure when you look up what a DAC is. There's structure, but not like strategic plan. But I think if me and Todd could figure out different structures that lend itself to people wanting to be involved and knowing that they have an influence and what they are doing matters, I think we can make DAC in the future.
Well, that's why I like your coming up with getting our agenda and knowing what we're going to be talking about, because those recommendations to the board should, that's our community coming to the board. That's that communication piece that we need, that we don't take advantage of enough, I think. All right, any other comments for Tico?
Good job, Tico.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. And please tell your board, tell them thank you for the work that they're doing. All right. Board reports, LRC, it's not going anywhere right now. They're in the middle of, well, they're closing up shop and they'll reopen with all the new representatives and stuff in January. So, but Matt did say, I met him at Casby, and he did say it's going to be a rough year because we have a whole bunch of new people going into the House and the Senate, so in Colorado. So I guess when you're new, you come in with, I want to do this, I want to do that, and lots of bills are going to drop. And from the conversation that we had, most of them have been tried before and are going to be thrown out, and it's going to be a little bit of confusion. So it ought to be, these are a wild ride this year. So we'll just wait and see what transpires then. All right, Casby, Victor.
Okay, so we're going to talk about CASB later and in the board meeting, but for the sake of the 2022 82nd annual convention, was a really great conference again for board members across the state. Really, I mean, they had great classes and they had some really good speakers that really helped me get a better understanding in different areas. I think we put out, I don't know, later in the meeting. There are 2 things I really want the board to think about. There's CASB podcasts that are coming up. Right now, they're actually on the website of CASB, and they're outboarding. This is onboarding new board members podcast. It's really short podcast, so it's short and sweet, but it's the work that we're working on right now. It's part 1 and all the way up to part 4. It's just good information and also verifies what we're trying to accomplish is important. So if you get a chance, go on to CASB. The podcasts are great. And it's good information. And then the second thing is there is a new initiative out from CASB to assess the cost of education for a student in rural Colorado. And they're going to be reaching out, and they're reaching out to different districts, all the districts that are rural, to find out exactly what the cost is. And they want to compare that to urban areas and find out kind of what the cost is in urban areas for students to go to. And they're going to give that to our legislators because they're the ones that asked for that information. So they're thinking in terms of at least what is the cost of a rural student versus a urban student or a mid-district student. Should they be getting more PPOR?
Wow, and who wrote this up?
This is on CASB's website.
Okay. So it's the Casby
Yeah,
themselves.
so there's a survey that's on CASB's website that is trying to, is asking these questions and wants folks to fill out the survey. I don't know if they're reaching out to you at all, Chrissy, if you heard anything about it. It says it's new, so I'm assuming that it's just begun and it was initiated by legislators.
You know, Victor, I might forward that information to San Juan BOCES as well,
Okay,
because I don't know if that would take, without their input, I don't know if that would take in consideration kids that are using all of the things that BOCES does for us,
Okay.
because that goes kind of beyond the scope of just per pupil spending, right? While some of
Brings in
that's
special
federal,
funds.
while some of that's federally funded, some of it's
Yep.
state funded.
Mhm.
So I think I'll make a note. Thank you for bringing that
and
up.
I can send you information I have about the cost of education, as educating a student in a rural area. I'll send it to all the board. Chrissy, I'll send it to you as well. And there's the survey link there, and maybe you can find out more information about what they're asking about and whether that's something you need to make a call or not. That's it, yeah.
Any questions for Victor? Any other questions? All right, thanks, Victor. Okay. BOCES?
So I put together a, quick synopsis of what is there, and so I won't go through all of that. It's there for you to read. I think it was basically the main piece of the meeting was the financial audit, and the good news is that they had a clean audit with no findings, but a few recommendations on how to maybe put themselves in a better cash flow position through some of their pass-through funding and grant funding. The one thing that I found, two things that I found that might be have consequences for us was the following, is that the salary table for the BOCES employees has not been addressed or revised in 6 years. So that's gonna probably be looked at pretty soon, which is going to probably then is gonna be a cost to us. So that just be mindful of that. And that and so that was from Royce Trainum, who's the ED of BOCES. And the other piece, and I apologize, I didn't suss this out, but they've gone over their projection of IEPs in the BOCES region by 150 students.
Wow.
I don't know what school districts really are bearing the burden of the most of that. I don't know if it's us. I didn't get that sense, but that's also going to be problematic. Brandy Durr, who is the ESS director, who gave us this information, does not have a full picture of why there's such a large increase, but of course, it's believed to be that, that one of the main factors is COVID, and but that a lot of high needs students are moving into our BOCES region as well. And just information that that number does not include preschool. So that might be, we also might see some increase in costs. I will share with you, Sherry Noyce, who's the board president, and Cortez as well as the BOCES board president, did express some interesting concerns at the board meeting. She didn't really articulate what the concerns were per se, but that we as the board need to maybe have more transparent conversations with BOCES. So I did make a recommendation similar to what Tigo recently said, is that if, we, as Sherry and Royce build the board agenda, that we do add future addendum items if there are concerns from the various different school districts. So we'll see how that works out. I did talk to Mr. Cordray if he had any specific concerns about our relationship with BOCES, and he said not particularly at this moment. There, just they were things that he feels that he has a good relationship with. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn with Royce to address those concerns directly with her, and they have a good conversation. So I felt confident that we're doing what we can to troubleshoot any of that. So that's that.
So can I ask you, I know you've got input from Cortez. I'll talk to you individually about that, but
Yeah.
Dolores Bayfield, well, not Bayfield, Archuleta Mansion, what did you say about our school?
Oh, I can't say that. Oh, I apologize. I really did do a CASB update, and I also talked about our main board initiatives, and that included board linkage, and then also our work on putting together our onboarding or new board member packet that included board norms. And then, as I mentioned, I talked about the two presentations that were at CASB that included pathways as well as Make Us United.
Oh, thank you.
I like to talk us up.
We hope you do.
I do.
Any other questions for Katie? All right, we'll go on to the superintendent's report.
So the first thing I'd like to highlight is I shared with you the director notes from the monthly meeting we have with the directors of the school district. So that's Sharon for our nursing, and Bart with transportation, and Travis with athletics and activities, as well as safety, security, and facilities and maintenance. Keith with our IT, and Janet with food service. And so that's a meeting that takes place on the fourth Tuesday of each month with the directors and the admin team. And some things that from that meeting that I thought were really interesting is one of the things that Travis had mentioned is he's in the process of putting together an advisory group to discuss safety issues and the possible implementation of an SRO. So I think that's a conversation that's going to take several months, and it'll be a conversation that comes through this board as well, because it's a very important discussion from philosophical to safety reasons as well. So I just wanted to point that out, that's in process. With these departments, they've all been encouraged to start to develop advisory groups to help support that, and also to make sure we get parents and the community involved. And then in Janet's report, I wanted to share with you a couple of really exciting things. For Thanksgiving, you all helped feed 520 people by serving 26 turkeys. So that was a good job.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that was really
Right.
cool.
And
And
then
also-
2 ovens.
Yeah, so that was a lot of hard work. It's a great feast and a terrific tradition. and I'm glad we're able to get back to it. And it's also one the marshal's office always shows up for and supports as well. And then another thing in their report is Janet was an advocate for the Proposition FF, and that passed. So that's the one that will have a positive impact on feeding kids that may be from a lower socioeconomic background. We'll be able to make sure that they're fed. It's a complement to what the federal government's done with free and reduced lunches. We don't know yet how that's going to play out. So it did pass, and that's what I wanted to make sure you were aware of. And there's still a lot yet to be determined on what that means and what that means for the school district financially, what that means for our students, our families, for free lunches. So more to come on that as we
I
go.
remember talking to Janet about that, and she said the school has to apply and you have to be accepted, and there's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, these things take a while to work out. And speaking about things that take a while, in Tara's
Isn't it-
report,
Isn't it supposed to take place January 1st though?
I think that's when some of the data
Yeah.
collection starts. So there's, I find it's always good to be patient with those things because there could be several iterations. Speak with several iterations is universal pre-K is also in development. So that's something that's been a high priority for the state government. And so Tara is active with getting more information on that and what that means for us as a school district. And her and I met in our weekly meeting today, and we spoke about that also. And so we will have some direct implications for our school district and the Mancos Early Learning Center and how that comes to be. But we're not ready to report out on the concrete nature of that. I know Tiara's doing a survey of parents in our community to find out what level of service they would like for their preschool kids. So more to come on that
May I
as well.
ask you a
Sure.
quick question in that regard?
Mhm.
Is universal, and I apologize for not knowing this, does it also include private preschools as well?
It
Are they
does.
eligible as well?
It does.
Okay.
So a lot of good stuff in her report as well, and Principal Labs also has a lot of great stuff in her report, especially noticing since we were talking about BOCES and special education, Amanda Krupa has been doing a really diligent job in the absence. We're down one special ed teacher at the elementary. We've had some promising interviews, so hopefully we'll see something on the next board meeting for a hire there, but Amanda's been doing a great job, and really the whole team, they really rallied together as a team and shared stuff. And also in that report, which was fun, it really caught my eye, was all the field trips that they're doing at the elementary. Every grade level had a field trip, and field trips are the best if you're in kindergarten or if you're in elementary school. So wanted to share that with you also. And then at the high school level, Mr. Rittner he shared important information about the work that he's doing with Mr. Gardner with restorative practices, and also with the hard work they're doing with the middle schoolers and the high schoolers to support the kids, because we know through our panorama survey that our kids are still needing a lot of support. And so they're doing a lot of terrific work there. And that's what I really wanted to share there. In his report, he did share, I think he planted a seed, which I appreciate him doing, but it could be a challenging one for us, but it's one the possibility of a full-time assistant principal or dean at that secondary level. So I know, we struggle so hard with our budget to raise compensation, so that could be a challenge for us, but I appreciate Ed raising that as a need that he'd like to see met. So, and then a few things I'd like to just share with you is last year in the legislature, one of the bills that was passed called for the development of a pre-adolescent task force to evaluate whether 10-year-olds through 12-year-olds should be in the criminal justice system. Currently, a 10-year-old can be charged with a crime. And so they're evaluating whether 10-year-olds through 12-year-olds can be charged with a criminal offense. They have a couple of educators that they've reached out to, and I was the one they reached out to represent school districts. And so I've been participating in regular and exhausting and very difficult conversations about very difficult things about the kind of criminal offenses that are severe that our young kids, 10, 11, and 12 can commit, and whether or not those should be crimes and how we would deal with them. So we're starting to dwindle that down and come up with our recommendations. So as a group, we'll be making recommendations to the legislature. And it's one of those things where, you know, it's really, for me, it's really difficult work because it's the worst. You can imagine, we heard testimony from the parents of victims, from kids who committed the worst possible crimes, that they committed them at age 10 or 11. And then also we heard testimony from kids who committed crimes at the age of 10, 11, and 12, and then how that sent them on a really negative trajectory for their life. So those were really the two sides of the coins. So it's been interesting, but difficult to say the least. And I just wanted to let you know that the education voice is being heard in that, because if it becomes decriminalized, a lot of the responsibility to support those students will once again fall on public education. And that's a very challenging thing for us. The last thing I wanted to share with you is, as you know, the school district is won the co-action grant last summer with 3 other school districts: Montezuma, Cortez, Dolores School District, and Dove Creek, which is a $1.7 million grant to support pathways work. And as part of that work, the first 6 months goes to planning, and that planning's been going on really from June through January. And we had 5 students participate in a planning session this last Friday here on campus to make sure that their voices were heard on the type of career-connected learning that would work best for them. So we had 2 9th graders, 2 10th graders, and 1 12th grader who spent 3 hours working with that regional group, giving their input. And I tell you what, every time that our students are in those environments, they always rise up to the occasion, and they just gave just fantastic feedback. They're just, every single one of them took the opportunity and spoke and just shared what they really wanted to see with career connected learning. And so I was very proud to be in the same room with them as they did that. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is on Wednesday is the Chamber of Commerce community gathering at Fence Line. And the Chamber of Commerce gives out 4 awards. And one of the awards is the Mancos Valley Chamber of Commerce Citizen of the Year. And Mancos School District, the last 2 years, has had staff members win that, you know, whether Andrew Saletta or Martha Endress. And this year we have 2 staff members that are also up for it again. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for Wednesday night to see if Martha Endress gets it again, or if Kathy Epps gets it this year. We'll keep our fingers crossed for both of them. But I just think that speaks to the quality of our staff, and I'm glad to see that they're recognized throughout the community. So with that, Madam President, that's my report.
I have one question. The Early Learning Center, they gave us this data. Can you decipher it?
We will, I think what we should do and should do is have Tara come and really speak to us about the good work she's doing with,
Okay.
with that program. She, and her quality staff. I mean, that's a whole team effort over there. I appreciate the work they're doing, but I think that'd be best, because I couldn't do it justice.
Okay, so we need to put that on for next time, see if they will come. and-
Yeah.
Is that all right with you guys?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. All right, any questions for Mr. Porter? Oh, universal pre-K, there was talk of a CASB, a couple of different board members, anyway, somebody had told me they have increased the hours, it was supposed to be just 10 hours a week, but they've increased those.
So there's like 3 groupings now. So
Uh-huh.
what started at 10 and now there's like a 10, a 15 and like a 20 or 25 hour grouping. So there's 3
Okay.
groupings. So it's changed substantially.
Significantly.
Yes, and there's been hundreds of hours that have gone into those debates and those discussions. And I purposely not participated in those, just because they are just so deep. They're
Yeah,
just,
smart.
it's one of those things, if you jump into, you could be lost for a very long time. So I'm waiting for it to settle a little bit to see what's really operational for us as a school district. The San Juan BOCES is the local, the LRC, local regional something for this area. And so they're doing a good job. And Adria, the previous executive director at the BOCES, is one of the 2 major people. Her and Jessica are doing a really good job putting it together. And they're doing Tara felt when I spoke with her today about it, that I was getting the sense that she had a strong sense of confidence in the work the BOCES was doing to support us as a school district.
Okay. And I just have one other thing. In the paper, it was headline Drone Day.
Yeah.
How did that go? I mean,
Okay.
I was just curious. Did you guys see that in the paper?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, last
Oh my
Thursday.
gosh.
So last Thursday, so, PCC kind of captured, a little bit of our thunder. So as a school, which is great. That's what I meant to say. I think it's just terrific. And so as part of our program, we brought in Colorado State University's Drone Center to support our kids. And those folks came down from Fort Collins. And so they were here on our campus with our kids, as well as it was a good opportunity to help advance the drone program for PCC. And that also works well for us too. It helps us with our vertical alignment of our programs. So our students that are in the drones program this fall, they're going to have 2 options. One that's more of a community college pathway at PCC Mancos, or continue with us also, which is more of a career exploration class in the spring, which would be a lot more flight time, a lot more video, and a lot of fun, so far with that drones program, we've had 70% of our students that have tested. We've had 13 students test so far, and 70% are first-time pass. So we have a first-time pass rate. When we were exploring this program in April, May, and June, I was speaking with a drones instructor who taught drones at the high school level, and he said he would not allow his students to take that FAA 107 drone pilot license because it was just too rigorous for his students. So a 70% pass rate is pretty exciting so far. And we'll have another 6 tests that we get back in January.
Any other questions? Thanks, Todd.
Mhm.
All right, finance.
Just a couple things. There's the resolution in there for the mill levy certification. Did anybody have any questions regarding that? It's an increase of a little over a mill, and that's mainly due to the tax credit that we're having to decrease. Plus the assessed valuation went down by 1.3 million from the year before, which then will increase those mills a little bit. So just so you know, it's going up about a little over 1 mil for everyone. So we'll be certifying, what is it, 26.346 mills,
26.
26.34.
346.
Yeah, now, with the state, we have to go up,
Yeah, because we're decreasing
so
those
that
taxes.
doesn't include our best grant, right?
No, it does.
It does?
That's everything. Yep. Yep, if you look at that, yep, we're at 17.65 for total program. And then we have our mill levy override that we do have for that technology/safety for 57,800. So we have that certified in there for 1.126 mils. Then we have some abatement. So anyway, the total general fund is at 19.043. And then if we add in our bond redemption fund, which we're going to be pulling about $375,000 total in for revenue, from there will be 7.3 mils. So if you total all of that up, it ends up being 26.346. And last year, I know this is a kind of not a very good form, but I did put a form in. You guys would have to like blow it up. It's tiny. But this is what CDE is providing us to use. So last year we had 25.148 was what we certified last year. So this year we're doing 26.346.
Okay, and with the state, we have to go up to what?
37. Yep,
So
37.
are we almost there then?
Oh, no.
Okay, so that doesn't include some of those mills.
It wouldn't include like the best grant.
Okay. Darn it.
Yeah, because our tax credits are 9.342, and we got to keep decreasing those to 0. So we're looking at 9 more years.
Yeah, every year
Take
one will
That's what
come
it was
off.
supposed to,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's going to be
It was
about,
supposed to take us 11 years or something like
Yeah.
that to get up to that.
yeah. So that's where that is. I just wanted to make sure you guys had, if you had any questions regarding that, but you'll be certifying at this meeting.
Just want to let you know, I was talking to Christy the other day when she had just discovered that this needed to be to the clerk's office today, wasn't it? Was it
Mhm.
supposed to be today? And she called and got him to put it off till tomorrow, so we wouldn't have to have a special meeting. to do
Yeah,
it.
well, there was a little blurb in one of the correspondence, and it said to have it by the 12th. I was like, whoa, well, that's our meeting, I couldn't do it by close of business, so anyway, I did call, and they basically said they were just trying to push that deadline a little sooner, because last year they had some corrections that people needed to make, and they were putting it in at the very final hour, and it just turned into a big fiasco for everyone involved. So by us submitting tomorrow, I'll do the commissioners and then over to Ellen Black tomorrow, so we'll get it done, send it to CDE, we're in good shape.
Kudos to you for seeing that.
Well, yeah, I
It's always
know.
been the 15th.
I was in a little panic mode for a moment, I was like, oh, because that's not normal, but anyway, we're totally good. So everybody's good with this? No questions? Okay, then just
What it
be,
is.
It is what it is, for
Unfortunately,
sure.
There's nothing you can change.
no. And then just the other thing is I'm obviously working on showing up our budget for January for you guys to approve that final budget for this fiscal year. So I believe I spoke with Todd, and on January 9th, I believe, is your next work session.
That's right.
That's a work session.
Yeah, so I'll come to that for a portion of it or whatever we need to do. And kind of go over that in a little more detail, and quite a bit of detail for you guys to see what's different from our June budget to the January budget, so you can know what the differences are. And then we'll have you guys approve that at our January meeting on the 23rd or whenever that is. So I'll bring it to you guys on the 9th. Hopefully I'll have majority of it dialed in for you. So.
I haven't heard the state's taking back any money yet.
No, I haven't heard. I think we're gonna be okay, right, Todd? You feel the same? I think we're gonna hold pretty close to what we had in June, so I think we're gonna be fine there. And I think our student count, I didn't bring that with me. What will we have? Todd?
About 12 from budget.
So it's about $100,000, 100-some thousand above budget.
I think the biggest thing that we'll talk about on the night too is just the timeliness of seeing that co-action grant payout. because we have around somewhere between 100,000 to 130,000 that we made in really cool improvements and stuff. So,
And that's supposed to hit in January?
yeah, anywhere from January through June.
So I'm hoping we get it.
I didn't mean that to be funny.
And that passes through BOCES.
It does.
The collection of those things.
So I don't know where that's gonna fall, but I'll go over that in detail, because we may show on our books that we'll deficit spend for that. Because I'm not 100% sure we'll get the revenue in this fiscal year. We're hoping that we do. And if we don't, we'll definitely collect it next year and it will offset that deficit spend, but we may have to show it on the books as deficit spend, just so we can keep track of what we spent for that whole pathways thing. So, but we'll go over that in pretty good detail on the 9th. And then that's where we're at, and that's all I've been working on, so I don't really have anything else to report unless anybody has any questions.
All you can do.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
All right, discussion items, CASB conference. I just asked the board to come up with your highlights of what you felt like you learned at CASB, since we did spend district money to go. And we learned a lot. We had a really good time. I think we had some quality time as a board to come together and really kind of learn our seats a little bit better and to learn some new things. So anyway, so let's go around and just, you don't have to say every class you attended, but just some highlights that you think that are really good. You want
Well,
to start? Tim?
Sure.
All right.
I think one of the best insights that I went to was about teacher housing and how we might start pursuing and looking at that to add to our compensation package and teacher retention capabilities. And I sent you guys all a brief summary of that, and I will sit down with Todd and talk about pursuing it. We have two places to work with that. We have a parking lot over here, which could be used to put a second story apartments on, and we have the bus barn property. So we have ways to work some of the financing on that and options to look at, but it's going to be it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be a process we'll have to look at, but we need to pursue it fairly soon, because right now there are monies available for workforce housing that's in the pipeline that we should pursue if we're going to do this kind of thing. The conference was great. The main conferences that we had, I did like some of the leadership stuff that they talked about, and equivalency of students and working on that. So.
May I ask a quick question, Tim? I too went to the employee housing, teacher housing seminar as well. What do you propose, or how do you see this, other than having the conversation as a school board? How do you see us addressing this? Like, what are the steps that you see us having a conversation about it, and then maybe making next steps?
We'll need to look at the actual wording in Colorado revised statutes about teacherages, is how that's laid out. Then we need to go talk to the town about our two properties and the zoning and how we can incorporate that with the town. And after that, then we should talk about what we want to do, if we want to, what kind of units we're looking at, what kind of, and I don't have my notes with me, but there's a couple of steps in there about doing a survey about finances, about average incomes, and some other things that play into the financing that we'll have to pursue. And those are the basic steps. And then, then we'll have to get, an architect. We'll have to figure out our finances and go from there. Those are the basic steps.
basic.
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess my point is like, it feels like a big project and I think, I just, I walked away from that being concerned that while it's interesting and would certainly benefit our package, I just don't know about our capacity right now with
Understand.
all of the other things that we have.
I don't see it
going
as such a big lift, but then that's kind of the things that I do in land use planning and building.
on. But it
So
would be a board and a school
Right.
lift.
There's
it
definitely,
wouldn't be
there's definitely a
just
lot
a-
of board discussion, but I will sit down and I'll put together a better step-by-step that I can get to the board and talk with Todd about.
Cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of great classes. The main speakers were really good because they really focused on students. Talked about why we're here, why we're board members, and it's really all about trying to improve the experience of our students in education. And that was really refreshing and really exciting to listen to, because that's why we come to school every day. That's why we have all board meetings at all level, whether you're a custodian or you're a teacher or you're a bus driver. It's all about the kids. So that was nice to hear and be reminded again. I think, one of the classes that I felt was really helpful for me was about linkage and about how we communicate with our community about needs that we have as it relates to what are our priorities and what do you think it's going to cost, and how do you communicate that to our community and get their feedback through surveys, and finding out where they feel we're at, where they feel they could support the initiatives of the district. It was really just best practices around how do you communicate with your community about your top 3 priorities. And let's begin a discussion around how does the community support those needs. That was great.
Yeah, it was a very informative, exhausting few days. I think it's worth noting, like, I was in meetings, I think we were at breakfast or meetings by 7:30 every morning. A couple of nights I wasn't back till after 9, 10 o'clock. So there was a lot of work and discussion and collaboration and just networking involved as a whole. It was good. The 2 sessions, I went several, but the couple of sessions that really stood out for me were in regard to school safety. And it was interesting because the 2 that I attended in regard to this, one was really more along the lines of build out. And it was very interesting because the gentleman who had been involved in the Columbine incident years ago was one of the speakers and spoke to how his involvement in the build out of a new school in the larger Denver area, and how that has really has transitioned into these campuses that appear very open and inviting, but realistically have the ability to really safeguard the students and the staff. And in the event of any kind of incident on campus, it was fascinating to watch. And they do really appear very open and much less like prison-like than many people would assume. So that was an interesting one, although I wished I would have heard it prior to all the renovations we did with the district, but just knowing kind of down the road, and really reiterated for me that we're doing fairly well. We have, doors that are guarded that you can't just walk in any door. I remember the campus not long ago where we could just walk into the school. And we have made a lot of strides that are really important there. And then the second one was really based around the, usage and strengths of having a school resource officer on campus and what that school safety piece really what looked like and what it really took to get that done, because it's not as easy as just calling up the sheriff and saying, hey, can you send someone over? It's, you know, from the economics of it and the budgeting to the training to the very specific school and educator training piece, culture, and then also just, you know, from a student standpoint, how students oftentimes will react positively to that because this person becomes part of their everyday world. And so that session was also very enlightening, especially in light of the fact that it's one thing that we've been talking about and that has been on our radar for quite some time, and that we are moving forward with linkage and talking to the town and continuing to investigate what's best for our school, our staff and our students. And I'll reiterate what Victor said, you know, at the end of it, and I think we all even came back to that at our board wrap up, is the strongest message was remember the why. I can't drive a school bus and I certainly am not going to teach a class. I am not capable of that, but I can sit here and I can say things that nobody else wants to say, and I can have relevant conversations and make tough decisions. But my why is still the kids. And I think that is what was really relevant for all of us, is even though we don't all do the same thing throughout this school district, the reason we're all sitting here, wherever we're sitting, is because of the kids that cross those thresholds every single day. That was powerful. Like that.
I aligned a lot of my choices to sessions around our strategic plan, like what were the sessions that were going to inform some of the major elements of the strategic plan. So two of them I talked about in, or one of them I already talked to Mr. Cruz about in regards to better school family partnerships and ways that we can facilitate that, and possibly through a stronger accountability committee. So I will be giving some more information to Mr. Cordray, BOCES, and the accountability committee in regards to state assistance and possibilities for having someone from the Colorado Department of Education come down here and maybe facilitate some training on that. The other piece I discussed in the work session was in regards to a social emotional learning program that was developed in the Weld and surrounding areas in their districts. And I think that goes directly to our monitoring report that we discussed during our work session as well. And so again, I will be doing follow-up with Mr. Cordray in regards to some grant funding that's available, as well as possible curriculum that could be looked at as we move forward with that objective. In regards to our board retreat, it was talked about from my colleagues about our linkage plan. And so we have a set calendar of each one of us going out into the community. And I already have that set for January for I will be at the board meeting for Mancos Public Library. So that'll kind of be our first foray, and then all of you will each take a different month with a different organization. I think at some point we should probably communicate that schedule in some way. I don't know how to do that, but maybe we can chat about what that looks like. Maybe we put that up on, put it in a newsletter, but we did put that actually that will be communicated through our various different communication channels. So, and each one is responsible for that. And then the other piece was coming up at that board retreat in regards to onboarding new board members and also creating a more structure and framework for not only new board members that will be on in November, but also for our own selves. So it was a lot of good stuff, a lot of actionable stuff, which feels good. Like, I think we have a lot of things in motion and plans, so that feels good.
I went to several. The one I was really interested in was local control, and I found out we don't really have a lot.
That's easy to say.
Which I knew, but I was really hoping for the opposite. If anybody wants to go to, it's Article 14, Section 15, school board and local control and what you can and cannot do. We do have quality of instruction, locally raised funds, innovation, healthy competition, some policy. But because of the state accountability system, it really narrows it down to what we really can and cannot do. So disappointing that I didn't get better news, but I was hoping. And then I really, really enjoyed the keynote, the last one on Saturday. He was phenomenal. Dr. Oh, shoot, I wrote down his name and I can't say it. But anyway, he was a gentleman that just was amazing. Because he talked about communication, but before communication, he said you have to have trust. And all of a sudden that resonated with me, is that that's been my problem, is that I'm not sure the staff trust, or I trust staff. I mean, that has been broken in the past, and that's something I need to really work on. So before I can communicate, before they're going to believe what I say, we got to get that trust going. And that was a big for me. I really appreciated that. Then go to high conflict, and it's kind of like, oh. But anyway, that was with Katie Anthony's, the Commissioner of Education, and Leslie Boger. But that one was, to me, it was like common sense. So the big one to me, actually, I went to a lot of breakouts, and we need to note that Todd presented at 2 of them. He presented with Katie
McClure,
McClure.
she did great. Katie McClure is a
Oh.
rock star.
Yeah, it was great. In fact, we got some, we call them stalkers from that, but we got some real followers from that presentation. The room was full, we got positive feedback, but Mr. Cordry did a fantastic job on presenting Mancos United. And it was well received. And then on Saturday afternoon, because the people had heard him before, they came back to hear about the pathways. And it was good. It was really good. So it was a lot of time, it was a lot of preparation, and I think it was time well spent. All right. Let's go on to objective 2A. I hope especially people at home, this is, if you're ever wanting to know one of these, you should come in and get a strategic plan book. It really does help. But 2A, we had a discussion during our work session, and that's what teachers will practice classroom management techniques and routines to support the needs of all students using trauma-informed practices and social emotional learning. Does somebody want to kind of calculate where we went with that?
I can give a brief summary. I think that as a board, after discussion from a summary trajectory, if you will, because I don't want to call it a report card, but just becoming more informed as to our district's climate and culture as a trauma-informed district, which also is inclusive of SEL, social emotional learning. That we are a district, first and foremost, I think needs to recognize that this is in our strategic plan. So we care about it enough to talk about it and to try to forge a idea of where we may have come from, what we may have or have not done, where we may be now, and how do we move forward, rather than focusing on just what we did or didn't do. How do we move forward as a district that is at or above standard in a future point in time as it relates to trauma-informed practice? And that practice being not just in the classroom, it's not one more thing for teachers. It really is a practice of consistency and culture that is district-wide. And after reading the report of a professional and just discussion, I think that we all very much agreed that we are going to move forward and continue to try to better ourselves in this particular standard. It's really tough to grade ourselves because there's not much there to grade. But I think what's important is that we have decided or initiated the conversation and decided to continue to move forward and improve. And that without, calling out any specifics, I don't know that there's a better way to summarize. So, it's good.
Yeah, it was. And I think the work that Todd's team is doing with Adian Farrar and Kathy Epps and Ed Wither is amazing. We appreciate all the data that you gave to us and was presented in the report from the third party.
Mhm.
It was all great. So-
Yeah, and as Emily just mentioned, yeah,
And
it's
Tara.
Tara and the.
Oh, Tara,
Mancos,
sorry.
yes,
Yeah,
she's-
PLC.
I'm
They're,
sorry,
they're
Tara, I
killing it
didn't-
there.
In fact, our early learning center are rock stars. They're on it. Yeah, we kind of noticed that with everything that came in the reports, they're doing SEL really, really, really well.
And we're discussing this, but we're not necessarily voting on this
No,
because
we
we
will
asked
vote-
for some follow-up, right?
Yeah, we will, you need to have this month to get any more of your questions answered, and then we will vote on it in the January meeting. Any other discussion on that 2A? All right, the other one discussion item was 1B, and that's where we're going to upgrade the website for easier access and usability. Would somebody like to take that?
Okay, I'll do it again.
Or I can, you can go ahead.
Per the strategic plan, its Mancos School District will upgrade its website for easier access and usability. The conversation did sort of delve into communication as a whole, with the website being a piece of that. The website has significantly improved since just a year and a half, 2 years ago. And we have all agreed upon and made note of that. I mean, I think as parents and community members, staff members, even students, they're able to find what they need or what they're looking for when they're diving into the website. Oh, I need this schedule. I want to know when that game is. As always with the website, it'll never be done and there's always room for improvements. And then we, again, I think that we think that, communication as a whole is really the larger discussion here. And so as it pertains to the website, we're going in the right direction. The new communication tool, School Now, which people will soon be hearing about if they haven't already, will allow our parents, staff members, it allows individuals to be communicated with in the way in which they want to be communicated with. If that's an email, newsletter, if that's a text message, if that's only website, and I believe it even goes as far as English language versus Spanish or Spanish speaking. And so, again, communication, the need to improve communication, the ability to do so, and following the right trajectory of improvement seems to be the way that we are absolutely going. And some notes were made on the report and questions as to kind of some Q&A. And so we'll wait for some of that before we have to accept, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we have, again, 30 days. We'll accept this in January. So, yeah, there was some surveys done and it was really well done and positive. We've got some positive reports coming in, but we can, like we say, it's never done. So I would encourage the community, if you've got any thing that you really want, please let us know. Whether you call Mr. Cordray or the principals or even your classroom teacher for your child or us, let us know what more we can do. We're always looking for ideas. All right, board superintendent evaluation. This is for us to set a meeting, would be a work session for us to go over. Mr. Cordray has done his self-evaluation on himself. And so he's got that to us as board members, and each one of us individually are going to score and evaluate them individually. Then we will come together in this work session that will just be the board, so that we can kind of make a masterpiece. And if there's more information we need at that time, we will reach out to Mr. Cordray. Anyway, so we need to set a time in a meeting to get together for that piece, just to talk about the superintendent evaluation. After that, we will get it back to Mr. Cordray for additional comments. So, and I know the holidays are upon us, so it's going to have to be in January, as I think we're pretty much taxed out for right now.
Yes.
We do have a regular work session on the 9th, and then our meetings on the 16th.
Is it the 16th or the 23rd?
23rd.
23rd is what I
Oh,
have.
sorry.
I want
So,
to make sure I have it correctly on my calendar this
so it's
time.
this, I'm sorry, I'm used to, we moved them up. So don't we usually have them on the,
Yes,
the
the
third?
3rd usually.
But this one's gonna be on the
Yeah,
4th. Is
that's
that what
Martin
we
Luther
did?
King.
We moved, oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
So
That's
we,
right.
we added that to our
Martin Luther
schedule
King.
this year
That's
as a
right.
day off.
So will we not have a work session then? Because that
We have it on the 9th.
Yeah, work
Okay,
session's the
so we're
9th.
gonna,
We do
okay.
9th and the
All right, I
23rd of
didn't put
January.
that in my phone. So our work session is the 20th, or the 9th, and then our regular meeting is gonna be the 23rd.
Correct.
So
Good.
what do your schedules look like? We hopefully this won't take us very long. But we will need to post it.
So it's a work session.
Yes.
And before we talked about, and I'm going back to Emily's email, that we were supposed to have our own evaluation of Todd on or before 12/31.
Correct.
Oh, yes, and that's, we need to also decide, we need to two or more, well, two people to get together to send this to that can kind of compile the information from all 5 of us. And then that's what we're gonna be talking about.
I see.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
It does
Sorry,
make
I left
sense.
out that one critical piece.
No, I just was just trying to put my head around the timeline.
So you're wanting to compile, so okay. I don't think it's worthwhile to compile until we meet.
Okay,
Otherwise, we're gonna do that work twice.
okay,
I think that that's just way too much to ask.
okay.
So I would either ask that we meet the last week of December or the first part of January in effort to compile and be able to provide that back timely as per what we agreed to when we set our own deadlines. And I know it's the end of the year, but we set the deadlines.
We did. Okay, so when we set that deadline, that was for somebody to compile all that information, so we're gonna be changing that just a little bit.
I didn't think that was the case either. I thought that deadline was,
What the deadline was for us to turn in our
Right.
individual stuff.
Right,
And then 2 people would put it together.
yeah,
2 board
yeah,
members.
exactly, and 2 board members would put it together, and then we've added this other, because you wanted to really get together and discuss this before we present it to Todd.
Right.
Okay.
That was after we did our individual ones, and then we would talk about, whatever information we had, or whatever we wanted to, whatever questions we had with each other. Maybe Katie had an answer and I didn't have it, or whatever, just to regroup and also get a feel of where we all are with it. And then submit, and then 2 board members were gonna come together, put it together and send it out to the board.
Okay, did we have a deadline? I don't have my.
so let me just
Yes,
clarify.
please do.
Okay, so we're at the step where board members are to submit no later than December 31st for compilation of a master evaluation, okay? However, that from December 31st, the next step is annual evaluation presented to superintendent every January to include discussion of combined evaluation. So we've got from January 1 to now our work session is the 19th, our board meeting is the 23rd. So we have from the 1st to the 23rd to compile and be prepared to present. You're saying in that time, we also need to meet, then reassess, compile, present.
Well, that's what I was gonna just compile, but Victor wanted to meet.
Correct, to have conversation,
Right, I
to
think that's
make
important.
sure that, right, and I understand the why behind that.
Right.
Because we're trying to not do this individually, but do this as a board as a whole, even though we're filling out individual forms. So I'm just, again, from a timeline perspective, I think we could still turn in, or have our individuals done by December 31. Discuss that first part of January. I would recommend that first or no later than we could do it at the 9th work session if that's what people wanted to do. Because then you'd have 2 more weeks to compile before we return to Todd or to our superintendent. And then at that meeting in the discussion of goals set forth by board and superintendent to begin
Right,
in January.
right, and we take.
Okay, so then you begin the discussion with your superintendent for finalization, agreed upon goals for superintendent shared with discussion no later than February meeting. So it gives a month of, let's really mold where we started and where we finished together effectively with our superintendent, not individually. Does that make more sense? So I would recommend that we come together as a board after we complete our forms,
Exactly.
but prior to, I would do it no later than mid-January. No later than like, what is that, Friday, the 12th or something like that? That first 2 weeks in January, this needs to happen.
Is there something on schedule for the January?
Yes.
9th.
Yeah, we have our objectives, don't we?
So for the 9th, we have the retain and recruit information to the board. And we also have we also have the budget.
Yeah.
The
Only need
more
about 30 minutes tops.
for the
Yeah,
budget.
Yeah.
I'll be very, I'll
we'll
have
be
it
here
laid out.
forever if we had all of that. I really would rather a separate meeting, otherwise a concentrated separate meeting. Otherwise we would,
It'll be a long night.
it's gonna be a long night because I think and I don't mean to.
Yeah.
I wanna give full attention to the,
Yeah, we want to do this.
Retain
right
and
this year.
recruit.
yes.
That's gonna be interesting. We're really working through that nicely.
Yeah.
So, and it really does need concentrated effort, because there could be important decisions that will come out of that.
And I also conversely want to give full attention to making sure that we give you due diligence as well, or the superintendent.
Sure.
So I
Exactly.
think we would have to have one.
So,
Add what?
Have a discussion,
Oh.
with just the board.
Yeah, I agree. The question is, do we do that at a separate meeting other than the 9th?
Yes.
And if
Yes,
so,
it
I
seems
would
like we need to.
recommend,
Yes.
yeah, I would recommend the week after Christmas or the very first week of January. And
I cannot do after Christmas, but I would be happy to do the first week of January.
I can do the first week.
so that would be the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th. Nobody wants to meet on Friday.
And I won't be able to be on the 5th.
So
My Thursdays are called for.
that means the 3rd or the 4th.
4th works for me.
That's a Wednesday night.
The 3rd, I've got a 5:30 appointment, so PM.
What about the fourth?
Would everybody be able to do the 4th?
I'm sorry, it's the 4th that I have
Yours is-
that, so it's the 3rd.
So the 3rd?
Yeah.
You can't do it on
You can do it on the 3rd.
I'm okay with the
I can.
3rd.
Tuesday, the 3rd.
I'm
Tuesday.
okay with that.
Okay.
You can, Tuesday the 3rd.
There you
Yes.
go.
All right, I'm adding
6?
another work session to the
Yeah, let's
calendar.
just do it 6.
It's not just you. We all do.
Okay, and it's 6, right?
Session 6 PM.
Okay,
Okay, now who do we want to send, we need to get our individual evaluations done by the 31st, and we're gonna send them.
I don't think
Why
we
don't we just-
even send them off
just
until
bring them-
after the conversation.
bring them in
Okay,
on the
so-
3rd.
But we have that in the timeline.
Yeah.
So that's what I was with questioning, do we need that in the timeline?
Well, okay, so I mean, you could supply them by the 31st, but if I raise my hand to do the work, I'm not gonna start on that work to compile until after our meeting.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know what's going to happen.
So should we just hold on to them and not send them by the
We're talking
31st?
about 3 days.
Yeah, it doesn't
You're just
matter.
talking, yeah.
I guess it's really more about a matter of come prepared, have it filled out,
Okay,
Yeah,
and be able to convert that into a combined document, which is work.
So,
Okay.
so
we're gonna have
do
to
we
change our
start, do we
timeline.
meet at 6 or can we
Six,
meet
yeah.
at 5? or-
6 is
I
what
think
we
we have to
have
change our
normally.
timeline. We can still meet our goal.
yeah, oh, that's fine, yeah, okay, but we just might want to clarify that, so,
I think we can meet our goal.
Just post it for the 3rd at 6 o'clock.
yep. Okay, evaluation.
6 days.
And that,
I wish I
is that going to be a work session or a regular session?
Work.
Because
It's a work session, will have to be posted as a work session.
is that open?
Yeah, anybody can come, Tico comes to our work session.
We're dealing with personnel issues. We cannot do an executive session without having a regular meeting, or without having a special meeting scheduled.
We're not going into executive
I'm
session.
just saying, it's dealing with personnel issues. And I don't know, I don't really want to. I'm just saying, if that's,
Well, I know if it's a personnel issue, and we go into executive session, actually, the person we're talking about has the option to either do an executive session
or in
or
public,
an
that's
open
correct.
public meeting.
Can I just walk this back just a little bit? Mr. Cordray does not need to attend the work session, does he?
No,
No,
no. But you.
I say we just leave it as a work session. Mr.
If
Cordray,
we talk about it in a work session, maybe
Or would
that's
you
the
rather
question
us-
that we need to ask.
No, I think that's probably a good way to do it.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. I'm just saying, because we had this discussion about personnel issues and our superintendent evaluation
Right,
at the conference.
yeah,
And if there was any intent of anybody thinking about executive session, it would have to be at a declared special, at a real meeting. With a special meeting or a regular meeting.
well, you can talk, you talk about whether you want to have it here in the boardroom or you want to have it at someone's house. We discussed that as well.
Yeah.
So you guys can think about that.
I think if it's a work session, let's just
Needs
put
to
it
be
as a
here.
work session and let's put it here.
Yeah.
And Mr. Cordray does not have to attend.
Yeah.
After
If
purpose-
we find that we need to refrain from certain pieces of the conversation, then we will make a decision there
Sure.
that we would need a regular meeting. That's my feeling.
I'm totally fine with that.
Okay, opportunity for consent motions.
I move that we approve action items A through E via consent.
Okay.
As we probably need to read about the middle, probably need to read the middle
Yes,
levy.
yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to approve action items A through E. Correct?
Correct.
Any discussion? Heather, will you call the question, please?
Katie Gilmore Wolpe.
Aye.
Pam Coppinger.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Okay,
And I move that in compliance with Colorado Revised Statute 2241-026, this is to certify that the Mancos School Board RE6 Board of Education met in a business session on December 12, 2022, and took action recorded on the official minutes thereof to establish a total Mancos School District RE6 mill levy at 26.346 for property tax year 2022 to be collected in 2023. The millage total is based on a net assessed value of $51,351,730. Is comprised of the following: total program of $906,769 with a mill levy of 17.658, A voter approved mill levy override of $57,802 for a mill levy of 1.126, and an abatement of $13,300 for a mill levy of 0.259. Total general fund amounting to $977,870 or 19.043 mils. A bond redemption fund of $375,022 or a mill levy of 7.303, and totaling a non-general fund of $375,022 for a mill levy of 7.303. The Mancos School District RE6 total of $1,352,892 or a total of 26.346 mils. Estimated full funding of the mill levy of 100.259 for a projected gross funding from the state of $4,241,118.
Second,
I'll second that.
okay, I'm not gonna read all that. We have a motion and a second to certify the mill levy for the property tax.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, any discussion? All right, Heather, will you call the question, please?
Kenny Cahill Wolfie.
Aye.
Cam Coppinger. Aye. Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. We do not have any public participation. I already did. Oh, Lord, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a spawn of thought, where y'all were discussing, on recommendations as the DAC meeting. You were talking about linkage and that you've made a schedule for the year, of who you want to talk with. And just as one way for us to get better at, thinking about what to be recommended. Next year, we'll try to make a list of any recommendations we have of different groups in the community
Oh, that'd be good.
that we feel like could be useful for you. So just, so we can make that statement for y'all, for us to get that recommendation started. So
That's good.
It might behoove us to just give a quick rundown of what's happening as far as that linkage goes. So January, I mentioned, I'll be heading with Mr. Cordray and possibly another board member at Mancos Public Library Board. In February, Emily will be asking the town board to meet again with all of these. Mr. Corday will be there and possibly another board member in March. Student group that Mr. Corday will help facilitate. April, Dolores State Bank. Pam will be reaching out to in May. The chamber, Mr. Hunter will be reaching out to, there will be set agendas at every one of these meetings, and you will hear about them in advance 3 weeks prior to the meeting through the school communication channels. And
Are we going to come up with our own agendas, or we're going to come up with one that we're going to
I
touch all
share.
of these?
I shared the agenda,
Okay,
and I'm assuming everybody was okay with it, because I need to send it to the town
And
oh, yeah.
What'd you say?
before you adjourn, I have something
right
to
after,
share as well.
right after the board meeting. Or the,
Okay,
yeah,
that was
It
one of the many
replied to
pieces
her.
I read today, but,
it's attached.
so and that's going to be the agenda that we're all going to use?
Yeah, it's a very basic
Yeah,
agenda that you can take and formalize it by typing in your own timeline, like if we're gonna start at 5:30 or 6:30 or whatever.
okay, I got that. You sent it out
I
just-
sent it in reply to Katie's. I'll just send it, but I
Okay,
sent it.
no,
in
if it's a reply, I can look under King. Okay. All right, Mr. Cordray has something as well.
You know, as this meeting has progressed, there's been some information in our community that I just want to share. Montezuma Cortez School District is on a 2-hour delay tomorrow. Dolores School District's on a 2-hour delay tomorrow. Durango School District's on a 2-hour delay tomorrow. Bayfield School District's on a 2-hour delay tomorrow. And in talking with our transportation director and our safety and security director, they've been communicating about this as well, about the matter. And I was just reaching out to the principals as well. But it would be, I think this has a lot to do with how wet it is and how cold it is. And the fact that we're gonna have very frozen roads. So what we'll do then is we'll go with a 2-hour delay also. And while we're still in this meeting, I thought this would be probably the most expedient way to get the information out. And then for parents who want information about what that means, it's on our website. And so we'll be experiencing a 2-hour delay. So please go to our website it's been nicely upgraded and you'll be able to find the information on it. So for
How does that happen?
Do you guys do like a reverse 911?
yeah, we'll be doing a reverse 911. We'll be doing it. It'll be on the 3 Facebook websites. Heather will put it on the electronic sign out front and we'll be sending out an email as well. So that's what we'll do.
Probably smart.
Okay, so do we have any future agenda items? I did put down for Tara to come and explain the data. that
Sure.
she shared with
Cool.
us. Anything else?
I just want to remind us in February that we are supposed to have board goals and scope of work from Victor and Emily in
Mhm.
regards to our onboarding packet. March is Pam and Tim for our board norms. And then I will be collating the packet elements in April. So if any of the board members have any items to give under those headers to their colleagues, I have a couple things for board norms,
Okay.
just examples that might be helpful to you.
Okay, go ahead.
And I had shared that best practice plan as well.
Yeah,
I scanned it in and shared it, so that was shared with everybody too. It's a really great document too.
I think ours is just gonna be scaling it down to what we.
Right, I don't think it'll be nearly as robust, but it doesn't need to
Right.
be. But that's a really great example of what we could do. So,
Okay, sounds good. Well, if there's nothing else. Wow. We stand adjourned.
Cards still need to be signed.
yeah, I think there's a couple boxes.